You are now within minutes of horror because in less than 48 hours, we actually had two pretty big train derailments. Now, before we do get into these stories, I do want to wish you all a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Myself being partially Native American, one of my favorite meals that I get to enjoy are buffalo snouts. Pretty wild stuff, but let's get into these stories here because like I said, in less than 48 hours, we actually had two train derailments, one in Florida and one in Kentucky. I know what you all are saying, whoa, 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 is the world ending? Minutes of Horror is talking about a mode of transportation that does not involve planes. What is happening here? I know, trust me, I thought the same thing myself, but let's get on to the story here in Florida. A train derailed near the Mosaic phosphate plant in Fort Meade early on Tuesday. At least 12 train cars derailed. A roadway near the entrance of the facility appeared to be blocked. Though it will likely take some time to clean up this scene, however, there were no injuries and no hazmat situation. The cars were carrying phosphate rock from a nearby mine, and since these unprocessed rock come from the ground, they do not pose an environmental risk. But to be honest, if this was not an accident, if this was done deliberately, did the person or persons who caused this train to crash, did they know that it was only phosphate rock on these train cars? Were they hoping there was something more on board? The investigation is still ongoing, so there's not much more news that has come out from this story. But like I said, there was another train derailment that happened in Kentucky. Now, unlike the train in Florida, the train in Kentucky was actually carrying multiple chemicals that do pose a major risk to the environment, to people and animals. The governor of Kentucky, Governor Beshear, has declared a state of emergency after the train derailment in Rockcastle County. The state of emergency allows the state to activate resources, including Kentucky Emergency Management and the Kentucky National Guard as needed. More than a dozen freight train cars derailed. It was at least 16 cars that were involved in the derailment, spilling over molten sulfur and sparking a fire. The reason why molten sulfur burning in this area is so bad is because molten sulfur releases sulfur dioxide. Specialized equipment is being deployed to conduct air monitoring in the area. Breathing this in is deadly for wildlife and humans alike. Just like in Florida, there's still not much news to go off of, but response efforts for the incident are ongoing, and local officials are encouraging those in the town of Livingston to evacuate. Now, me personally, I would pick up my family and leave, but there are some people that are pretty much freaking out because they're cooking and they have turkeys in the oven and they can't leave. They have turkeys in the oven. Sulfur dioxide is not anything to play with. It can be tolerated for more than 30 to 60 minutes, but higher or longer exposures can cause death from airway obstruction. Even if it's not sulfur dioxide, I mean, we really don't want to breathe in anything but oxygen for long periods of time. That's what humans do. So screw the turkey, just take your family and leave. The crash led officials to shut down US 25 in both directions from the Laurel County line to Callaway Branch Road, and it is unclear when it will reopen. Now, like I said many times before, I am not a coincidence theorist. So what is the coincidence that we have two major train derailments pretty much back to back and a long list of train derailments in 2023? Matter of fact, there have been 742 incident reports for train derailments as of October 25th, 2023. Many of these trains that are derailing are not passenger trains. They're not trains that you would ride in to go from one location to the next. No, the trains that are derailing are trains that are potentially carrying many dangerous chemicals that can spread into the environment. Now, even though this was not a train derailment, there was a very bizarre train story that occurred in 2021 that not many people are talking about. A company transporting ammonium nitrate from Wyoming to California says that 60,000 pounds of the explosive chemical was lost during rail shipment. They were recorded being put on the train cars, but magically, as they were being transported to California, they just happened to disappear. The official report behind these dangerous chemicals used for explosives magically disappearing is that it leaked due to an unknown cause. This article right here even continues to state that ammonium nitrate has been the key ingredient in both attacks of terror and fatal accidents. They go on to list the many horrible incidents that have involved ammonium nitrate, but this dangerous chemical used in many dangerous attacks has just went missing with no cause whatsoever. Very, very peculiar. Those who were investigating these missing chemicals stated they do not believe there is any criminal or malicious activity involved. So that is that. Going back to train derailments, there was another horrible train derailment that occurred on February 3rd, 2023 in East Palestine, Ohio. This train derailment released multiple different types of chemicals, including vinyl chloride, which does cause liver cancer in people. Now, people in the immediate area were told to leave. They were told to evacuate in case of a major fire, if a fire would break out. But people in the surrounding area, they were told they were safe, that they did not have to leave. If they did have to leave for any reason, go seek out a shelter, but generally these people were safe. But the very next day, the air in the surrounding area was full of smog, it was full of smoke. Even though EPA officials stated they did not detect any contaminants in the air, people in the surrounding areas were developing blotches all over their bodies, which they said looked like burns. People were getting headaches, their eyes were burning. They were even told to go to the ER, and when they went to the ER, doctors told them they had chemical bronchitis in their lungs. Many of the wildlife in the surrounding areas had their lives ended, including many fish. Many people had to leave their homes, they had to leave the town, and it caused a lot of distrust with the government. People thought the government were lying when they said the town was safe, so they just left. 6 months after this train derailment, people are still reporting nausea, rashes, and breathing problems. Many other chemicals released during this train derailment, the EPA does link to cancer, organ damage, and irritation to the skin, nose, and eyes. So it is very terrifying that these train derailments are still ongoing, and they seem to be going at a ever-increasing pace, and there's no answer as to why these trains are derailing with chemicals on them. But in any case, like I said, I do hope that you do have a happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.